Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. Lord have mercy. This has been a day of breaking news. I mean, it seems like every couple of hours I was getting alerts on my phone or text messages from people saying, hey, check this out. This is what's happened. We're going to dive into all that here in a minute. Big thank you to everybody who's donated. Also, the jacket that I'm wearing, I got this at CrimeCon at the booth of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. On the front, if you're not watching on YouTube, it has the logo. On the left sleeve, it says, every child deserves a safe childhood. It's a great way to support this cause. They're on the front lines, protecting our kids, trying to find our kids. And at the same time, you get a really nice, high quality jacket that's lightweight, but keeps you cozy. And I'm going to tell you guys, I need it today because I think I'm getting COVID. When I came home from Florida, my oldest had COVID. And it's hit me this afternoon. You know, it's like every hour you start feeling worse and worse and worse. So the jackets come in really handy today, although I get hot and cold. So if you see me shedding this, you know, I'm getting hot and cold. I got the chills and then I'm getting really super hot at times. So I'm going to do this episode. Then I'm going to do a live with my Patreon members. And then I'm going to bed because I have to get up early regardless of how I feel. You know how it is. Mom life 101. Doesn't matter if you're sick. There's things to do. So we're going to jump into our music fact of the day. Ricky Martin's 1999 smash hit, Livin' La Vida Loca, was the first song in music history to be recorded digitally. No use of analog. And it was the first song recorded digitally to hit #1 on the charts. It's a great earworm. It reminds me of Shrek now, but it's one of those songs that every time I hear it, I turn it up. So there you go. Now you know. Big news of the day. One of the big stories of the day. The remains of Suzanne Morphew were found. The Colorado Bureau of Investigations announced today that they have found the remains of Suzanne and she has been positively identified. The family has been notified. They actually found her remains on September 22nd, which was Friday. She was reported missing on Mother's Day 2020 after going for a bike ride. We know her bike was found. Didn't see any evidence of a crime right where her bike was laying. And investigators were searching an area in Moffett in Saguache County in an unrelated investigation there in Colorado. And I guess they just stumbled upon her remains, which is a good thing. I know her family really has wanted to give her a proper burial. And now at least they have that closure. Although I'm sure the finality of finding her remains is painful no matter how long you've had to deal with this. She was found about 50 miles from where her bike was. So very interesting. Now, as we know, her husband, Barry, was arrested on May 5th of 2021 for her murder. The charges, however, were dismissed April 18th of last year. Now, here's the thing. Nobody's been arrested since her remains were found. And we know that they dropped those charges against him and they were dropped without prejudice. So the state can refile if they have new evidence. And it's going to be interesting to see. I wonder, are they going to be able to determine a cause of death with that? That's going to be a big thing. Maybe they already have. They've had days before this broke. Actually really surprised it wasn't leaked out. So let's go through the news release from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. This was dated for today, September 27th. Agents with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation located human remains during the course of a search on September 22nd. Those remains were positively identified as Suzanne Morphew, 49 years old. She was identified by the El Paso County coroner on September 27th. She was reported missing from her home on May 10th of 2020. Investigators were searching in the area of Saguache County on an investigation not related to the Morphew disappearance when the remains were discovered. Specific information about the location and the state of the remains are being withheld at this time. Nobody has been arrested since the remains were located. Updates will be provided as information becomes available during this ongoing investigation. Family notifications have been made following the formal identification of Suzanne Morphew. As we know, her husband Barry was arrested on May 5th of 2021 and charged with her murder. However, the state dismissed those charges without prejudice, which means they can refile should new information come to light. And they were dismissed on April 18th of last year. He was let out of jail. If you remember, his daughters were there waiting. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, are they going to be able to find a cause of death for Suzanne? That's going to be a big factor. The remains were found about 50 miles from where her bike was found. If you remember, her bike was found kind of in a little ditch area. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, no signs of a crime where her bike was found. So it's interesting, 50 miles away. Curious to see what all they have uncovered during this investigation since her remains were found. And they were found in the 12th Judicial District. CBI says that District Attorney Ann Kelly has been notified. And the sheriff said, although locating Suzanne's remains is a critical component of this investigation and for her family, we are left with many more questions than answers, and it would be a disservice to conduct a news conference at this time. So there you go. Very interesting development. I don't know that I ever really thought they would find her after all this time. And it seems like they stumbled on these remains by chance. Hopefully, the discovery of her remains gives the family a little bit of closure, although I'm sure the discovery of the remains reopens a wound where you maybe have a little bit of hope, even though 3 years have passed. So my thoughts are with those who knew and loved Suzanne tonight. And we're going to watch that one. I'm curious. We'll be waiting to see if there's any updates or any arrests. Real quickly, yesterday, Taylor Schabusiness, she was sentenced to life in prison, as we kind of imagined she would be after the horrific crime that she committed against her friend Shad in decapitating him and putting his head and body parts in a bucket and then putting the rest of his body parts in bags and duffel bags. Just an insane case. She had on a nice little spit guard. Shad's father said he forgives her and asked the judge to allow her out at some point, saying that everyone makes bad choices, but maybe not on this scale. He said, I think there is a lot of hope for you to be a better person. I think you will do great things yet. I wish you no harm. I hope things go well for you. Now, his uncle Kelly told Taylor he hopes she meets the same fate as her idol, Jeffrey Dahmer. He also gave her a new name, and instead of Schabusiness, you can imagine the other S word. I try to keep it family friendly if you have kids in the car or something, but so he was not as forgiving. I tell you, it takes a lot for that man's father to say that he hopes she gets another chance, although I could never be that way. To extend that kind of grace in such a horrific murder speaks volumes about Shad's father. Judge Walsh said in his sentencing, in a place where this kind of offense, kind of actions, kind of crime is possible with no advanced warning signs, absolutely anything is possible. The public needs protection. This crime offends human decency. It offends human dignity, and it offends the human community. When life is taken from a person in the fashion that it was in this case, where the victim's remains are cut up and packaged in containers, it's difficult to identify human nature in those activities. It really is. It's very troubling. These actions are foreign to all of that community, and they shock the community beyond the ability to adequately express in words. That's the gravity of the offense. There aren't superlatives for it. There aren't really words for it. You can get a sense of it. You can get a sense of it and a feel for it. By the way, she laughed as they played footage of her confessing to the crimes. That speaks volumes about Taylor's Schabusiness. So bye-bye. See you later. Another big story today. Brooks Houck. He was arrested by the FBI for the 2015 disappearance of his girlfriend, Crystal Rogers. He is charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence. Bond is set at $10 million, y'all. Additional details are expected at his arraignment, which is said to be coming up in early October. Just to recap, we did a story on this case not super long ago, but she was last seen alive on July 3rd, 2015, and was reported missing on July 5th by her parents. Her car was found on the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown, Kentucky, along with her keys, her phone, and her purse, which were still inside the car. The car also had a flat tire. She had previously that evening attended a party on Brooks's family farm. And when she left, that was the last time anybody saw her. So just a little timeline real quick of the case to refresh your memory. October 16th, 2015, she was declared dead by investigators. Brooks was also named as the main suspect. November 19th, 2016, Crystal's dad, Tommy Ballard, was shot and killed while he was hunting on his own property with his grandson. that is unsolved. I'm very curious to see if there are going to be more charges for Brooks in relation to this case. August 2020, the FBI takes over the case. Search warrants were executed at Brooks's home and also at the home of his brother, Nick. His brother was a police officer at the time. He was let go due to what they say is his involvement in the case. They also searched a storage unit belonging to Crystal and searched the family farm. Brooks owned 3 different homes in the area, and on August 27th of 2021, federal agents say they found items of interest under a driveway at a home in Woodlawn that was owned by Brooks after they excavated that concrete up. October 21st of 2022, the second search took place at Brooks's family farm, which is 245 acres, by the way. This time they focused on the back of the farm, which had not previously been searched before. They used cadaver dogs as well as heavy machinery. Fast forward to January 20th of this year, Daniel Cameron, who is the Attorney General in Kentucky, appoints Hardin County Commonwealth Attorney Shane Young as special counsel to help prosecute Jason Ellis, Crystal Rogers, and Tommy Ballard cases. Assistant Special Agent Brian Jones said back in 2020, it is very rare to have all these cases that are potentially connected in a small community like Nelson County. I think that potentially solving any of these cases could bring resolution to the other ones. So it's going to be very interesting to see if any more charges come Brooks's way. And also, if you remember Joseph Lawson, he could be charged as well if they find a connection, because in June 21st of this year, 32-year-old Joseph Lawson was arrested on conspiracy to commit murder charges and tampering with physical evidence. These charges are related to an incident over the same weekend Crystal went missing. And I'm going to tell you what, I bet he is singing like a canary. And that's why we are where we are today, on top of good investigation. September 7th of this year, Lawson is seen in a hospital bed for his first court appearance. He is due back in court on October 26th. And then today, September 27th, Brooks was arrested for murder. So big, huge news. A lot of my listeners have inboxed me, emailed me, and said they followed this case since the very beginning. And so, especially too with Suzanne Morphew, those 2 cases are cold cases that really today we got some resolution on. You know, the long road to justice is definitely true. Moving on to Rex Heuermann. He was back in court today for a pretrial conference. This was a 3rd court appearance since his arrest. The hearing inside the courtroom took around 5 minutes. A lot of the hearing took place apparently behind closed doors with the state, the defense, and the judge. Rex also spoke for the first time when the judge asked if he was taking advantage of his right to go over discovery. Rex responded that he was. The judge asked how long he was being allowed to do that every day. Rex responded that he was averaging 2 to 3 hours a day reading over it, sometimes up to 4 hours. The defense has been given over 8,000 pages of evidence, and just today, they were given 5,000 more to put on top of that. That included grand jury transcripts and exhibits, property warrants, subpoenas, memo books from officers as they executed the search warrant on Rex's home and storage units. One big reveal from this today was that the DNA results from the pizza crust that was taken out of a New York City trash can by investigators that was discarded by Rex and compared to a court-ordered, I call it a cheek swab. There was a match between his swab and the pizza. Now, that swab also matched one of the hairs found on a burlap sack that victim Megan Waterman was found in back in 2010. Huge, very overwhelming evidence. Now, it seems you get that DNA evidence, that is a big deal. The hair had previously been attributed to his wife until today. All 3 of the women he is currently charged of murdering were found wrapped in those burlap sacks. After the hearing, DA Raymond Tierney said the surveillance team had observed the pizza box and were confident that that was the DNA, and the DNA profile would be consistent with the defendant because he left that material inside the box. He said the cheek swab just erases all doubt. Now, Rex's attorney, Michael Brown, said there is nobody on the face of the earth that is credible is going to say that hair is my client's hair. It is impossible under science standards. What they can do is say he potentially could be a donor for that hair, but so could thousands and thousands of other people just in our area. So take that for what it's worth. I'm going to give him an E for effort on that. His attorney is also alleging that the state hasn't turned over all the discovery. When asked about contact with his wife, his attorney said Rex has had contact with her. She has not come to visit because she would be mobbed by the media. As far as the nearly 300 guns that were taken from their home during the search warrant, a decision will be made likely on October 2nd to see if the guns will be returned to his wife. His attorney is requesting to have them back, saying that they're marital property and worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Court documents say that she has a right to retain ownership of the guns, also mentioning that they were legally purchased. The DA is asking that the weapons be turned over to Nassau police, and also said in the past that some of the guns he had could be in violation of gun laws and he could face additional charges if they find any of those guns were illegal. Some of the guns they found, at least 20 assault rifles, vintage weapons, were removed from the home. Some of the guns date back to the 1800s from the Civil War and World War I. They have been passed down through their family over the generations. His attorneys are also asking for any outstanding jewelry, clothing, and cash that was removed from the home during the search warrants to be returned, pending the outcome of her divorce from Rex. As we know, she's filed for divorce. The Heuermann family attorney, I'm assuming it didn't really identify who this man represented, but sounds like he was kind of speaking for everybody. His name is Sabato Capone. He says the guns could relieve some of the financial hardship that Rex's wife and kids have experienced since his arrest. He said, although these items would be returned to Rex Heuermann once he has been acquitted of the charges pending against the court, that eventually may not come to fruition for many months. One bit of news I missed last month was that Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison said he wouldn't rule out the possibility that Rex was planning to kill again, and some of his online behavior leading up to his arrest was disturbing, such as his internet searches or engaging in other activities he shouldn't have been. They didn't elaborate. Moving on to Pava LaPere, 26-year-old, had it all going on for her. Beautiful girl, smart girl. She was killed in Baltimore on Monday, and her body was found on the roof of her apartment complex. She was beaten to death, and she was found partially clothed. She was the CEO of EcoMap Technologies, which she founded at the age of 22 in her dorm room in college. She was listed on Forbes' list of Baltimore's 40 under 40 list and also Maryland's 25 under 25 for innovation. Now, a missing persons call was made shortly before her body was found on the roof. Police are not saying who made this call. Investigators have issued a search warrant for convicted sex offender 32-year-old Jason Billingsley. Jason has a criminal record dating back to 2009. He was in prison until last year. He only served 9 years of a 30-year sentence. He had previously been denied parole twice in 2020 and then again in 2022. He is a registered sex offender, and it is scary that this man was let out 9 years into a 30-year sentence. But get this, it's not the parole board. The last denial for him was just months before his release in October of last year. He got it on good time credits, and that is according to state law. The chair of the Maryland Parole Commission, David Blumberg, said he was not paroled. He said, we had concerns about him, or we would have considered parole. He was serving time for a crime of a very serious nature. With regards to his case, it's not a difficult decision to refuse parole. It's very sad and tragic. She was a bright young woman with a lot to look forward to, and to see this happen is heartbreaking. He's also believed to have attacked a woman days before Pava's murder in a knife-point sexual assault and arson that left a man and a woman, both aged 26, in critical condition. Also, a 5-year-old child was hospitalized for smoke inhalation, otherwise was not physically harmed, thank goodness. Firefighters responded to a call for smoke that was billowing out of a townhouse basement. A source told the Daily Mail that the woman was targeted for a sexual assault and that her throat was slit. Investigators have not confirmed that, but it was reported in a couple of mainstream media news articles. Both adults were said to have multiple injuries, and authorities were able to connect Jason to Pava's murder through investigating this case. They didn't say how, but that seems to be the connection. Jason is not believed to have known Pava at all. Police say the building is secure. An acting police commissioner of Baltimore, Richard Worley, said Jason would have had to have been let in by somebody. He also said this individual will kill and he will rape. He will do anything he can to cause harm. Please be aware of your surroundings. to Jason Billingsley. I hope you're watching. Every single police officer in Baltimore and the state of Maryland is out there looking for you. We will find you and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. So please turn yourself in. Now, they haven't said how they identified Jason specifically as a suspect. Jason lives in the 1500 block of Baker Street in the Sandtown, Winchester neighborhood of West Baltimore. That's just a little over a mile from where Pava lived. His mother, Scarlett Billingsley, said that Jason actually showed her a gun just days ago. She said she thinks he's trying to sell it. She has spoken with him through text messages since the arrest warrant was issued for him for the murder of Pava. She said she last saw him on Monday when he was at her house just for a brief time, and then he left again. She told NBC, I told him to turn himself in because they're going to kill him. I don't want police to shoot him because they think he has a gun. I don't know where he is, and he's not going to tell me. I'm so sorry for what that mother is going through. I'm very sorry if he did it. I won't know until I see some evidence if he did it. Where is the truth at? Show me some evidence. He's the only one I have left. He's my baby boy. Her other son was shot and killed in 2013. Detectives are now reviewing all cases since October of last year to present day to see if there's any kind of a connection to Jason with anything that's unsolved. Now, LaPere was from Arizona and left there to attend college at Johns Hopkins University. She was said to be the kind of person anyone would go to if they needed help, and she would help anyone if they needed it. Her colleagues is a really young group, and they are just devastated. As you can imagine, it is not a huge staff, but a huge company. And so, those bonds run deep. And so, man, just tragic. So it's just a scary world. My heart just breaks for her family and everybody. Let's hope they catch this guy soon because he is a threat to anybody around that area. We're going to do a little bit of prison life to close this out today. What happens when you have a court date in another county? So once you're moved from the prison back to the county where the crime occurred and you're back in court, I had some listeners ask what it's like to kind of make that transition from prison to jail. You're going backwards. My contact had a court hearing about a year ago, and it was clear across the state. So she had to be transported from where she was to the county where the crimes occurred. And she was placed in the temporary custody of a jail in that city. Now, because of the nature of her crime, she was put in isolation there at the jail. She got a 10-minute warning before they were ready to load everybody up on the transport van. So she's patted down as she leaves her cell. She was shackled around her waist, cuffed at the wrist and ankles. She lifts up one leg at a time for the leg shackles. Once she is cuffed and shackled, she's escorted by 2 deputies to a holding cell. Then before she's taken to the transport van, her hands are placed in a crossover, which she describes essentially as a straitjacket. The transport van will load inmates from general population of the jail first, and then she will be put in a cage near the front of the van due to the fact that she is a lifer for murder. She can't see outside, so she said by the time they got to the courthouse, 45 minutes later, she was about to throw up everywhere from being car sick. She is led from the van into what she calls a bubble room. It's a cell that looks across to holding cells for people that came out of general population. The bubble room is just like a large window. So she felt like she was on display or in a fishbowl is how she described it. The cell had a bench, a toilet, and a TV, which was broken. She could hear those waiting in the general population cells watching movies all day until they were called to go to court. She was moved to her courtroom holding cell, and then she was able to meet with her attorney. By the way, before her arrest, she was actually planning to go to law school. The hearing was really quick. It was just to establish new counsel. She was out in a matter of minutes. So she had another court date scheduled for like a month after this. So she was in that jail for a while. She was taken back to her holding cell to await transport back to the jail. While she awaited her next hearing, she had to wait for everybody else's court time to be finished, and then they all were loaded up. She waited 6 hours, and in between that, she said she heard a lot of bragging, a lot of crying, a lot of debating, and things of that nature. She was fed a boxed PB&J sandwich lunch. Once they start transport back, it's everything we talked about in reverse. The ride back was longer due to traffic, and the stop and go made her even more sick than the trip there. Due to the nature of her crimes, she is last to be taken off the van. She missed her commissary delivery, and so it's not like Prime. They don't leave it on your cell doorstep if you're not there. She said the woman in the cell next to her in the jail was super sweet and shared her personal hygiene items with her and also made her cake and food from the woman's own commissary since she missed out on hers. She said there are good people in jail and in prison that just made bad choices. The food in the jail that she was held at, she said, is the best she's ever had since being in the system. They have a processing center where these hot packs are made. So you get a hot pack and a cold pack with your meals. The hot is obviously your cooked food, and the cold is for your salad, your drinks, your salad dressing, things like that. She said it's the equivalent of a TV dinner, but way better than prison chow hall food. She talked about breakfast revolving around 7 menus that they kind of mixed up every week. So she gave an example of a week's menu. Sunday, they had scrambled eggs with beans. I can't even imagine that combination, y'all. But with every breakfast, you also get hot cereal. In the South, we do grits. We don't do this cream of wheat stuff. That hot cereal is with every single breakfast, every single day. Monday, they had waffles and their hot cereal. Tuesday morning, they had boiled eggs for breakfast with hot cereal. Wednesday, scrambled eggs again with those beans and hash browns on that one. Thursday, they had pancakes with sausage and your hot cereal. Friday, French toast with sausage and hot cereal. Saturday was scrambled eggs with sausage. Lunch and dinner had revolving menus with dinner rotating around 14 to 21 different meals. Some of those meals were chicken enchiladas, chicken fried steak, pasta, chicken bites with waffles, chili over rice, burgers, mac and cheese, Salisbury steak. Every single meal has vegetables on the side. Cold packs have a salad, milk, and cookies. She said most county jails in California have poor sanitation and terrible food, so this was a very nice change. The prison where she is at, they call it a petri dish due to the transmission of things that are catchable like COVID or norovirus, things like that. She said the vent in the cell where she was loud and it kind of sounded like water was rushing constantly. The mechanical doors clicked often. They slide open, they slam shut. And it doesn't matter how long you've been in the system, at least for her, it wakes her out of a deep sleep. So solid sleep wasn't something that happened often, and even that way in prison. She also said that toilet flushes echo through the cells on a regular basis, making sleep hard to come by. She was talking about every time a Muslim prayer was sang from different cells from people who were Muslim at certain times of the day. There was a mentally ill woman who refused meds. She would constantly scream for people to turn off the TV. That would escalate to the woman smearing waste on the walls. So when the woman was agitated, people learned to really talk softly and not agitate her further. So behavior like that wasn't the end result, because she said the scent of that travels and lingers for a very long time, long after those cells have been pressure cleaned. One thing my contact is a very faithful reader. She will read a book a day if she can. The facility she was at had limited books. And on top of that, there was also an inmate, and her hobby was to rip random pages or 2 or 3 out of books from the few books they did have. So she wasn't able to read much there. So it got really boring. On jail laundry exchange day, she gets to exchange 2 bras and 3 pairs of underwear there. She says you hope you don't get a pair with stains on them, whether it be feminine stains or other kind of stains. You also get 3 pairs of well-worn socks, a gown, a pair of sweatpants, and a sweatshirt. To exchange your laundry, you pass your dirty laundry through the food slot. Then your clean laundry is passed back through that food slot. And until you get your clean clothes, you are standing there in your underwear and your bra until you get dressed again. They get 2 blankets in jail. She said they're actually really nice. They were heavy and kind of thick. She used one to cover the mop, which had to stay in the cell. That was just that jail's policy. We talked yesterday about how she used her sock to mop the cell floor and didn't want to use the mop they had there due to the smell of body waste. Blankets are not exchanged frequently. She clarified that her prison has about 50 understaffed positions, which causes in turn for them to be locked down frequently and for long periods of time. One thing they look forward to in prison are award shows that come on TV. So they'll make food in their cells and have a big watch party for the Tonys, the Grammys, the Oscars. She is currently sharing her cell with 7 other women. So there's a total of 8 women in that cell. She also said they have a new hack for keeping ants and small bugs down the sink, as well as little bitty spiders. They use the lids from soup they get at lunch and place it over the drain to keep little creepy crawlies out of their cell. A few other things from her time in segregation. The toilet only flushes twice every 30 minutes. The shower temperature is set and cannot be made hotter or colder. This week, she said a woman in a cell next to her made sushi using tuna, rice, seaweed, and soy sauce. She said it actually wasn't bad. Yes, you can get seaweed in commissary, I guess, in some prisons. I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.